Lee Santo here again, back out at the firearms range to continue our series on basic firearms manipulation. Today we're going to start with our secondary malfunction drill. Earlier we covered tap rack ready, tap rack reassess, which cures about 90-95% of the malfunction drills, but today we're going to get a little more complex. Remember, firearms are a piece of machinery and sometimes they malfunction. So we're going to set up what we call a double feed and work on clearing that today. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to use some dummy cartridges, kind of an added safety factor in our training. Lets us perform these without fear of the weapon going off, but we still follow those 4 safety rules and always be aware of where our muzzle's pointed anyway. So I'm going to set this up real quick here. Face down range, draw out my firearm. You can see I've already got the slide locked to the rear. No magazine, visual physical inspection, chamber's clear. What I'm going to do with this dummy cartridge is drop it down into the chamber. Now I need a little gravity to help me here, so I'm going to make sure the muzzle's angled downward and I let that go into the chamber. Then I'm going to draw out my magazine, which is also loaded with dummy cartridges, and I'm going to insert that into the chamber, and I'm going to let the slide go forward. So what we have here is a simulation of a double feed. I've got a cartridge that either failed to extract or, well, stayed in the chamber, and I got another one trying to go in after it. So we need a way to be able to clear that. So what typically happens is if I'm in my firing mode and up and engaged and I press the trigger and nothing happens, my primary drill is that tap and that rack. But you can see when it's set up like this that that's not going to function for us, so we need to do something else. So instead of trying to do this again, I know immediately I've got a problem. So what I'm going to do here is basically unload the firearm and then I'm going to reload it. So to do that, I'm going to pull back on the slide, press up on the slide lock so that I lock the slide open. I'm going to press on the magazine release, but you can see that magazine doesn't drop free, so I'm going to have to rip it out. Once I do that, I'm going to rack to make sure my problem is cleared, and then I reload with a fresh magazine so I can get back into the action that way. So, simple steps to remember: lock it, rip it, rack, reload it, and you're back in action.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, we just went over our procedure, our secondary malfunction clearance procedure, dry fire. I've got it set up again, and we're going to see what it looks like live fire. So I have set up the weapon again using the dummy rounds to load it up. I've set it up with a double feed. I'm going to start here from a low ready position, attempt to engage. When it doesn't work, I'm going to do my clearance drill, make it go hot, and then see if I can hit the target. So we go from here, press the weapon out, I press the trigger, it fails to fire, I tap it, rack it, it didn't work, so I've got to do something else. So I lock the slide to the rear, I rip the magazine out, I rack it to clear it, I get out a new magazine, I load it, and then I go hot. Making sure I can get good hits with that. With a little bit of practice, you can get a pretty good, decent clearance drill in there pretty quick. So that's what it looks like when we're doing it live fire.